Chapter 14. Can you hear my thoughts? Scene 1. Already awake and energized, Ryan bustled around the house, preparing her wife's favorite tea and a steaming mug of coffee. The flavors mingled with the scent of freshly cut grass from the day before, creating a cozy domestic atmosphere in their home. Sophie, always one to take advantage of sleeping in after leaving the military, remained nestled under the covers. She enjoyed the extra moments of rest, a luxury rarely enjoyed during her time in the force. Ryan's movements and the clinking mugs eventually drew Sophie from her peaceful slumber. "Babe, did you forget to turn off the sprinklers last night?" "I thought it was your turn," Sophie mumbled, her words muffled by the soft pillow. Ryan chuckled, appearing in the doorway with 2 mugs in hand. "Nah, pretty sure it was yours, sleepyhead." Sophie sat up, accepting the coffee with a grateful smile. She took a sip. You always make it just right." "Of course I do. I know my wife." Drinks in hand, they settled into the familiar rhythm, that easy morning flow between them like a warm hug. Sophie's gaze roved over to the laundry basket in the corner, filled with a mix of their clothes. "You know, one of these days, I might just bleach all your flannels on purpose." "Sophie, don't play with me. You know better." "Try me," Sophie smirked, setting her mug aside and pulling Ryan in for a quick kiss. They were cracking up, tangled in the sheets, and playfully wrestling. Eventually, she extracted herself and headed downstairs to the laundry room, determined to tackle the chore. The spacious laundry room was an example of their differing tastes in music. Nested on a shelf, Sophie's phone blasted Ice Cube as she sorted through the clothes. In the living room, the mellow notes of Sade's drifted from Ryan's speakers while she changed Oscar's tank water and fed him. Later, they stood side by side in the kitchen, combing through the fridge and cabinets to create a grocery list. "Oh, by the way, I was texting with Marquis last night," Ryan mentioned casually, scribbling an item on the list. "And he mentioned this meal we should try out. He said it's good natural energy. Apparently, he and Mary picked it up while they were in Nice." Sophie paused, her hand hovering over a box of cereal. "Wait, you've been texting Marquis? Like regularly?" "Every now and then, yeah. Just to talk through things and give advice about this spy shit. I mean, I know we've been doing it for a while, but still, it's nice to get other perspectives. I guess I'm just surprised. I didn't realize you two had gotten that close." Peeping the way Sophie's energy switched up, Ryan looked up. "Are you jealous?" she joked, attempting to lighten the mood. I know you're 100% lesbian." Ryan rolled her eyes. "It's not that I don't trust you, babe. I do," Sophie continued. I don't know. I guess I'm a little uneasy about him giving you advice. We don't know him that well, and I worry that his outlook might not always align with what's best for us, you know?" She trusted Ryan to the moon and back, but the idea of her girl getting deep with Marquis, a stranger, felt off somehow. "Honestly, it's not a big deal. He's just been giving me some pointers, you know? Like tips on how to handle certain situations in the field, how to read people better, that kind of thing. I'm just trying to learn from someone who's been in the game longer than we have." Sophie remained unconvinced, and Ryan, sensing her worry, continued, "Marquis is just, I don't know. He feels like a mentor, maybe even a friend. But you're my everything, my best friend, so you don't have to worry." She smiled. "And besides, he and Mary are going to be out of the country for a while, so it's not like he'll be blowing up my phone 24/7. Ryan knew that Sophie's concerns were valid, but she also believed that Marquis genuinely wanted to help them succeed. She wanted to reassure her that their bond was unshakable and that no outside influence could ever come between them. Letting out a pensive, Sophie remained focused on rifling through the cabinets, quiet as a mouse. Scene 2. Fort Gray District, Urban Roots Grocers. Ryan and Sophie rambled through the grocery store aisles, their cart gradually filling with essentials to restock their pantry after weeks away from home. While they checked items off their list, Sophie stopped in front of the meat counter. Her eyes lit up when she spotted the thick-cut ribeyes calling her name. "Damn, those look good." She was practically salivating. "Babe, you're drooling. Remember what the doc said about cutting back on red meat for a bit?" Letting out a light chuckle, Sophie shook her head and swatted the air, making it clear she wasn't trying to hear all that noise. "It was just a little inflammation. Nothing serious. I'm fine." Ryan's insistence on healthier choices stemmed from the doctor's visit a few weeks prior, when Sophie had complained of persistent fatigue and joint pain that left her unusually worn out and irritable. The doctor suggested that a minor underlying inflammatory condition might be the reason for this, and advised an anti-inflammatory diet as part of the treatment plan. She was determined to help alleviate her wife's symptoms and improve Sophie's overall well-being. Though she tried to play it cool, seeing her in pain and not feeling like herself terrified Ryan. The idea of anything happening to her love, of being unable to protect her, was more than she could bear. She insisted she felt great, but Ryan knew the doctor's precaution was warranted, even if Black Bat's medical team routinely monitored their health. "Yeah, because you've actually been following the diet advice. Don't think I didn't peep you smugly chowing down on that quinoa and kale we had the other night." "Okay, it wasn't terrible." She leaned into Ryan, unable to suppress a smile at her wife's attentiveness. "But come on, one steak won't kill me. I'm still young and spry. I haven't even hit 35 yet." For someone who's usually such a stickler for rules, you're awfully cavalier about your health. "I follow rules that make sense." Sophie gestured theatrically at the meat case. "And denying myself a good steak every now and then? That's just cruel and unusual punishment." Pressing a kiss to her wife's cheek, Ryan hummed against her skin. "How about a compromise? One steak for you, and I'll load up on some lean chicken breasts for the rest of the week. Deal? I'll even cook it up real nice for you tonight." Sophie pretended to mull over the offer, tapping her chin in contemplation. "I suppose I could be persuaded. You're not just my wife, Sophie. You're my partner, my other half. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep you healthy and happy, even if it means only eating plant food until we're old and gray." Ryan pulled her in for a slow kiss, stealing her breath in that toe-curling way only she could. "I love you so damn much, baby. More than anything. So just let me fuss over you a little, okay? Let me show you how much you mean to me, because I never want to imagine life without you in it." Feeling all kinds of endeared, Sophie pulled Ryan back in, nibbling on her bottom lip until a soft moan slipped out. When they broke apart, foreheads resting together, eyes locked in an intense look, she knew her wife had won this particular battle. An older woman cleared her throat as she passed by, breaking the couple out of their intimate moment. They shared a low chuckle, looking a little flustered but still so deep in love. They kept it moving with their shopping. Scene 3. While driving home from the grocery store, a sudden thought struck Ryan. "Oh shoot, I almost forgot. I need to grab some plant food for the garden. Any chance we could make a quick pit stop? It's right on the way." Sophie, well aware of how much Ryan's garden meant to her, didn't hesitate. "Of course, babe. Whatever you need." Minutes later, they were cruising the narrow streets of their neighborhood, searching for a parking spot near the plant shop. Cars lined both sides of the street, and the few empty spaces looked barely big enough to accommodate a bicycle, let alone Ryan's Jeep. There, that one's perfect. I don't know, Rye. That looks tighter than my aunt's hip replacement. Maybe we should circle the block again, see if there's an easier. Nope. Ryan cut her off. I've got this. Watch and learn, babe. She maneuvered the Jeep back and forth as she tried to wedge their vehicle into the impossibly tight space. Sophie, meanwhile, gripped the door handle, watching the gap between their car and the other's shrink to mere inches. Rye, seriously, this is ridiculous. You're going to scratch the paint. Or worse, actually hit someone. Let's find another spot. Relax, her eyes never leaving the rearview mirror as she continued to inch the car back. I've got this under control. Trust me. Biting her lip, Sophie decided against clapping back, knowing it would just egg Ryan on. She loved her wife's confidence, she really did, but sometimes it bordered on recklessness. Like now, when they were holding up traffic on a busy Saturday street, all because she couldn't resist a challenge. On cue, a horn blared behind them, making Sophie jump. See? She snapped, gesturing to the growing line of cars. Now we're that couple, holding everyone up because we can't just park like normal people. Jaw locked tight, Ryan refused to respond. They were close. Just a bit more and they'd be straight. No way she could tap out now, not with Sophie's eyes on her and those other drivers throwing looks. She had to shut it down and show she could slay this parking thing. With one final careful maneuver, she guided the car into the space, the bumpers mere millimeters from touching. She let out an elated whoop, turning to Sophie with a smile. Ha! Told you I could. The words died on her lips as she caught sight of her wife's expression. She was not smiling. In fact, she looked annoyed with her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Congratulations. You managed to park the car. And it only took, 10 minutes? 15? Come on, Soph. It wasn't that bad. And look, not a scratch on my baby. Let's just get your plant food and go home. Sophie just shook her head, reaching for the door handle. Ryan watched as her wife got out of the car, slamming the door a little harder than necessary. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. Okay, she's cranky, Ryan whispered to herself. Strolling down the aisles, neither of them said a word. Their previous disagreement had left things awkward. It wasn't until they were back in the car, Ryan's plant food safely stowed in the trunk, that Sophie finally spoke. I'm sorry for snapping at you, she said, placing her hand over Ryan's. I overreacted. I'm sorry, baby. No, I'm sorry. You were right. I was careless. I hate backing down from a challenge, you know? Even a parking on... Oh, believe me, I know. It's one of the things I adore about you, even if it does drive me crazy sometimes. Well, Ryan smiled, planting a quick peck on Sophie's knuckles. Guess we're both a little crazy, huh? Damn straight. Leaving that tight spot was a breeze for Ryan, not like pinching in earlier. Sophie had to laugh. Her girl kept things interesting, no doubt about it. Scene 4. As the afternoon stretched on, Ryan and Sophie were elbow deep in the disarray of their shared closet, attempting to bring some order to the chaos. What had started as a simple domestic chore after putting the groceries away quickly devolved into an impromptu game of keep or toss, with each woman holding up old clothing items for the other's appraisal. Damn, babe, look at this fit. Ryan waved a neon crop top in the air. This takes me back to that undercover op at the club. I could barely keep my eyes off you that night. You were so fine but so damn loud in this. Why did you choose this color again? Let me see that. Sophie swiped the bright top away from Ryan, raising an eyebrow in faux annoyance. This outrageous look was a genius idea for that operation. Who would think a stylish queen like me would purposely wear something so out of pocket? Baby, I love you, but you're not a stylish queen. If it isn't blazers and button-ups, then it's tank tops and bomber jackets, or even some of my shit. There's no in-between with you, my love. Sophie threw a loose sock at Ryan for the dig. Their laughs bounced off the cramped closet walls, filling the tiny space with their goofy banter. As they continued to sort through the clutter, Sophie's hand brushed against a forgotten gift box tucked in the back corner. Curiosity piqued. She pulled it out and carefully lifted the lid. Snuggled inside, between white tissue paper, was a tiny superhero onesie, complete with a miniature cape and mask. A note from Iris was tucked beneath it, and she unfolded it, reading aloud. For your future baby, because with genes like the two of yours, that kid is destined to be a superhero. Happy anniversary to my favorite couple. Oh, Iris. Sophie's fingers gently traced the soft fabric of the onesie. How did we forget to open this? It's been months since our anniversary. Ryan looked over her shoulder with a frown. Damn, she sent this? It's a little presumptuous, don't you think? Sophie shrugged, holding the onesie up to the light. I think it's sweet, and look how tiny it is. Can you imagine a little one running around in this? Causing trouble, wrapping us around their little finger? The longing in Sophie's voice hit Ryan like a gut punch. She'd skirted around the baby topic before, but never really dove into it. Despite her lighthearted jokes about it, Ryan sensed a deeper desire bubbling beneath the surface. She took a deep breath, weighing her response carefully. Babe, you know our lives. The work we do, it's not exactly kid-friendly. I mean, we're constantly putting ourselves in danger, never knowing if we'll make it back from the next mission. Is that the kind of world you want to bring a child into? The smile slipped from Sophie's face, her grip tightening on the baby outfit like it was a lifeline. I know. It's just, sometimes I can't help but picture it, you know? A little piece of you and me, a family of our own. With a soft exhale, Ryan reached over and smoothed back the loose lock of Sophie's hair behind her ear. Maybe in another life, babe. One where danger isn't our constant third wheel. A nod was all Sophie could muster, her eyes revealing the disappointment she tried to conceal as she carefully folded the onesie and returned it to its box. The moment stretched between them, thick with unspoken truths and dreams that seemed worlds apart. After a beat, she cleared her throat and forced a smile. Well, we better get back to it. This closet isn't going to clean itself. Ryan gave a slight nod, relieved the heavy moment had passed. Still, as they picked up where they left off, the real conversation lingered, adding weight to their usual playful rapport. It killed her, knowing she was the one putting that look on her wife's face. But what else could she say? How could she promise her something she wasn't even sure she could give? Later, after they made a dent in the closet cleanup work, Ryan was alone in the bathroom, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her mind kept drifting back to the onesie, to the longing look on Sophie's face as she'd held it. A family, she said under her breath, that concept sounding unfamiliar. Could I even be a good parent? With my past, my baggage? She splashed cold water on her face and patted her skin dry. Then she caught sight of the ring on her finger, the symbol of her commitment to Sophie. Though manufactured in the beginning, it was nothing but real now. Sophie, she wants this. She wants a family, a future beyond just the two of us. But can I be enough? Just me? Ryan's words carried a load, the burden of abandonment engraved into every syllable, fear in the depths of her eyes, a constant that whispered of unworthiness and rejection. The memories of being left behind had carved themselves into her very being. leaving an invisible print that no amount of love could fully erase. Sophie's discovery of the gift from Iris sparked hope, a dream of a future and a family. But that hope was quickly overshadowed by the ghost of the past, the fear that she would never be enough, that her brokenness and baggage would drive her away. Deep in her heart, Ryan knew Sophie was her true love, seeing past the surface to the real her and loving every part. But that soul-deep fear of not being worthy remained. Questions circled in her head like an endless loop of worries and anxiety. No doubt she loved her wife and would move heaven and earth to keep that smile bright. But starting a family? That idea was just too wild for her to even put into words. Turning off the light, she exited the bathroom, her mind racing. Whatever happened from here on out felt like a whole-ass crisis she wasn't ready for. Scene 5. When the day deepened into the evening, the house was silent as can be, until a faint noise from the backyard made Sophie's ears perk up. Puzzled, she tiptoed over to the window, trying to scope out the moonlit garden. The sight that greeted her made her chest tighten. Out in the backyard, Ryan and Alice were laughing and having a good time together, seamlessly transitioning through yoga poses. She watched as her wife leaned in close to adjust the blonde's posture, hands guiding hips into the correct alignment. The casual contact, the way they got along and got all up in each other's space, had her spiraling. "It's all good. It's just yoga," Sophie said under her breath, and logically she knew Alice wasn't Ryan's type. Nonetheless, that all fell flat against the green monster, and that was trying to cut through. She couldn't stop herself from wondering if this was what Ryan wanted, what she craved. The freedom, the lightness, the lack of expectations. Alice, with her quirky charm and unfiltered affection, represented everything Sophie wasn't: carefree, unburdened, and able to stay present instead of tripping over the future. After their conversation earlier, the unspoken strain about children and the life they both envisioned, seeing her so at ease with Alice made her feel a little insecure, like maybe she wasn't enough or that she was cramping her. Sophie turned away from the window, unable to watch any longer. She retreated to the living room, her mind a tangled mess of uncertainties and apprehensions she couldn't fully grasp. Outside, Ryan and Alice finished their final pose, both standing up as they caught their breath. The latter reached for her water bottle, taking a long swig before turning to her with a look in her eye. "I'm so glad I'm neighbors with a yoga master." "Nah, not a master. Just picked up a few things here and there. Nothing major." She glanced back at the house, and for a second, her expression changed. She hadn't meant to stay out so late, but the yoga session had proven to be a welcome distraction from the uneasiness of her earlier conversation with Sophie. "I should head in," she said, grabbing her water bottle. "Promised Soph I'd cook dinner tonight." "Uh-oh. I know that sound. Trouble in paradise?" She held back for a moment, not trying to put their business out there. "Nah, nothing like that. Just a lot on our minds lately. You know how it is." Alice hummed, not entirely convinced. "Well, if you ever need to talk, you know where to find me. I've been told I'm an excellent listener, among other things." She punctuated the last bit with a dirty wink, and Ryan just laughed, even as she felt a prick of discomfort at the implication. "I'll keep that in mind." Ryan made her way back to the house. "Thanks again for joining, Alice. Same time next week?" Alice nodded, waving goodbye as Ryan disappeared inside. "Hey, babe," Ryan called out, kicking off her shoes by the door. "Sorry I'm late. Alice wanted to show me this new sequence she learned on YouTube." "No worries." Sophie forced a smile, hoping it didn't look as fake as it felt. "I know how you get when you're in the zone." "You know me so well. Let me just grab a quick shower and I'll get started on dinner." When Ryan headed upstairs, Sophie sank onto the bar stool at their large island counter, her mind still lightheaded from what she'd witnessed. She knew she needed to talk to Ryan, but for now, she would put on a brave face and push down these feelings. They had a life together, a love that had weathered countless storms. Surely they could get through this too, right? About half an hour later, Ryan prepared dinner as promised, using the fresh ingredients they'd picked up during their earlier grocery trip. She moved around the kitchen, chopping vegetables and seasoning the meat, while Sophie set the table and poured them each a glass of wine. Dinner was served, but before they could even tuck in, Sophie had to get that weight off her chest and put it all on the table. So Alice seemed pretty comfortable out back earlier, she remarked, trying to keep her voice nonchalant. I still can't believe how close you two are. Oh yeah, she's been joining me for yoga sessions lately. Ryan looked up from her plate. I thought I mentioned it. Sophie took a sip of her wine. Must have slipped your mind, just like how you forgot to mention how much you've been texting Marquise lately. The fork hit Ryan's plate with a clank, and she gave a look that could cut glass. Seriously, I thought we talked about this earlier today. I thought we had an understanding. I thought so too, but apparently not. What's that supposed to mean? It means that I don't have a problem with you having friends, Ryan. I love that you have Iris in your life. She's your best friend, and I've never once complained about your relationship with her. But Alice and Marquis, I don't know, it's different. They're crossing lines and you're letting them... Ryan pushed her chair back, the chair legs scraping against the floor. That's not fair. You can't compare Iris to them. She's been in my life for years. Alice and Marquis are new, and yes, maybe I've been spending more time with them lately, but that doesn't mean I'm prioritizing them over you. Doesn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it sure feels like it. Late night texts, private yoga sessions. When was the last time you made that kind of effort with me? What the hell do you mean, Soph? We do everything together. We work together. For crying out loud, we spend every single moment with each other. With her shoulders slumping, feeling defeated, Sophie looked everywhere but at her wife. I know. It's just, I can't help but feel like you're more excited to spend time with them than with me. Ryan raked her fingers through her hair, clearly annoyed. Fine, you win. I'll talk to them. Make sure they understand that our relationship comes first. No, Ryan, I don't want to win. That's not what this is about. Well, what is it that you want then? I'm confused, Sophie. Sophie stayed quiet for a moment, her eyes fixed on the table. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost vulnerable. I don't know, Ryan. I want them to know that our relationship is important, and it's a priority. As the words left her mouth, she couldn't remember the last time she felt so insecure or sounded so controlling. She could see Ryan's surprise, the realization that this argument ran deeper than either of them initially thought. But there was no turning back now. Does that make that sense to you? Of course it does, Soph. You and me, we're a team. Nothing and no one comes before that. They finished up their plates, but the air was still thick with the unsaid. Ryan wasn't even pretending to eat, just moving stuff around, while Soph stayed in her own head, slowly drinking her wine, clearing the dishes. The distance between them felt greater than ever. They moved around each other in the kitchen, their actions mechanical and devoid of their usual affection. Ryan told her she'd take care of washing the dishes, and Sophie quietly headed upstairs, reflecting on the argument and the underlying issues it had brought to light. Ryan realized that she and Sophie had been so focused on their careers lately, on the high-stakes missions and the adrenaline rush of the job, that they hadn't taken the time to really talk about what was going on around them. The new people in their lives. They've been living in the moment, basking in the newness of their love, without taking a step back to discuss where they see this going. She finished drying her hands and made her way upstairs to their bedroom. When she entered the room and noticed Sophie already in bed, her back turned towards the wall. She stopped in her tracks, studying her wife. In the dim light, she noticed the hunched shoulders. Her body curled, as if shielding herself from whatever hurt and pain that was out there. Letting out a quiet exhale, Ryan slid under the covers next to her. Her hand drifted towards her shoulder, pausing mid-air until she finally whispered, "I love you, Sophie. I know today was tough, but we'll get through it. Together. I know we will, because that's what we do." Ryan smirked, with the hip-hop lyric playing on repeat in her mind. "You know, like Glow said, every day the sun won't shine, but that's why I love tomorrows." She let out a low giggle, the bars providing a brief uplift, but she had to keep it real. Her expression turned sober once more. "About the whole kid thing, I'm not gonna lie, it scares the hell out of me. I mean, we're just getting our feet wet in this crazy life, and I kinda like how things are now, you know. But maybe one day we can bring it up again. No promises, but we can talk about it. That's all I can offer right now." Ryan cringed at her own words, knowing maybe and no promises weren't a commitment, but it was the best she could do at the moment. She leaned down, pressing a kiss to Sophie's shoulder before wrapping her arms around her from behind. She snuggled up close, fitting her curves against Sophie's back, like a key into a lock. Life could get crazy, but they'd roll with the punches side by side, just like they'd been doing now for about 18 months. With that thought in mind, she closed her eyes and tried to drift off to sleep, the steady rhythm of Sophie's breathing, a lullaby in the quiet of the night. But unbeknownst to Ryan, Sophie lay awake, her mind racing with thoughts of the future and the sacrifices they made for their careers. As she stared into the darkness, Sophie pondered on her desire for a family, for a life beyond being spies. It was a dream she'd carried with her for so long, a secret hope that she'd never quite had the courage to voice aloud. Despite the reassurance she found in Ryan's arms, a nagging desire refused to be silenced. That long-held dream of starting a family, a vision she'd kept close to her heart, refused to fade away. But if Sophie wanted a happy life and a happy wife, she could not dwell on this. She made a silent vow to herself that she would find a way to balance her desires with the realities of their life together. She would work to build a future that satisfied them both, one step at a time. So she turned over and wrapped her arms fully around Ryan. Adjusting herself, she found one of her favorite spots, her face tucked between her neck and jaw. But when she pulled back, and in the dark, could still see the dark eyes, they were loaded with worry, yet what shone through the most was love. Leaning in, she kissed Ryan sweetly, once peck, two peck, then snuggled her head right back. For now, Sophie was determined to hold her wife a little tighter, kiss her a little longer, and just be grateful for the love they'd share. The rest, well, she didn't really know what to expect. Document outline. Chapter 14. Can you hear my thoughts? Scene 1. Scene 2. Scene 3. Scene 4. Scene 5.